fellas, what's your favorite chest exercise? I bet a lot of y'all's is probably bench press. I ain't done it in like 6 months though, and obviously my chest is disintegrated into a shell of its former self. Now obviously that's satire. That's a knock on the people that say, you're not cool if you don't do this lift, or you're never gonna get results if you don't do this lift. Or try to basically strong arm you into lifting the way that they want to lift. Now full disclosure, I'm 1000% gonna make videos in the future, maybe a tier list or two here and there, saying I think this exercise is better than that exercise. But where I think it becomes a weird circle jerk is where we act as if someone is not a valid lifter if they're doing, say, weighted push-ups instead of bench press. Look at my chest, okay? Enough said there. But those are just some thoughts that I wanted to share before I headed to the gym to talk a little bit more about my training and what I've been doing. How I've been getting these pecs nice and succulent and juicy like a botulism Botox freak. Okay, no bench press for 6 months at all. I'll see y'all at the gym.
What's good with it, fellows? We back at the gym. So I stopped pressing flat barbell bench pressing about 6 months ago because I found that weighted calisthenics build a wider base of muscle for pressing muscles in particular when compared to a flat barbell bench press. So the movements that I do, for example, you see the deficit weighted push-ups on these rings, or what you see me do a lot, ATG weighted dips. First and foremost, they have a lot more range of motion than a flat bench, so they're working the muscles a lot more completely. But they also have physical qualities that you don't get with a flat bench. And on top of that, they're still heavily loaded, so you're still building static strength, which is what a lot of people like to cry about. Which brings me to my first freaking point, that something that really irritates me is when people say that you have to do this or that if you want to build quote-unquote real strength, whatever the hell that means. Here's the thing, strength is strength, and the idea that you even need to do a particular exercise to get strong is funny to me. For example, I've quite literally never trained for the one-arm pull-up, but I can just walk up to a pull-up bar casually any day of the week and twice on Sunday and do a one-arm pull-up just because I've done a lot of rowing, I've done a lot of just weighted pull-ups. And speaking of the weighted pull-ups, when it comes to that, the last time that I hit 4 plates on that with Omar Isov last year, I was only doing barbell rows for the most part, 0 pull-up volume. And I just walked up to the bar and said, bro, check this out, and just fucking smoked it. 0 peak or anything, just did it for the meme. Strength is strength, and you can quite literally get strong doing anything, provided that you can load it heavily over time and you program it properly. Which, when it comes to the strength building aspect, since it's the same pretty much no matter what you do, whether you're doing a flat barbell bench press, Smith machine bench press, decline bench press, a machine, it's going to be the same. So one of the chief reasons why I choose to build that foundation of size and strength with calisthenics is the recovery aspect. I've talked about this before, but they're easier to recover from for a variety of reasons. They let my shoulders move more freely. That's the biggest thing. And then my wrists and elbows are also able to produce force from a more natural feeling position on weighted ring push-ups, weighted dips, and stuff like that adds up over time. And mind you, I've benched, I think, 240 for 22 or 23 reps, somewhere in that ballpark. I've done 275 for 14 or 15 reps. I hit 315 for some sets of 6, 5 sets of, or 3 sets of 6, and then 2 sets of 5. And then for a single set of 8. And I've done 320 for 5x5. I can go on. My shoulders, wrists, and elbows felt that though. And it wasn't debilitating, or I'm not catastrophizing the fatigue that's generated from that. But it wasn't as fresh as when I'm doing my weighted calisthenics phases, where I'm honestly training even harder. And that's because I'm fresher on average. Better recovery means that I have more energy to do other things at a high level, but also means that I'm just closer to peak conditioning throughout the week. So I'm hitting heavier loads on average. And those are small benefits that add up over a prolonged period of training that, again, are small, but over the course of 6 months, a year, they do add up. And that's not some hocus pocus mumbo jumbo bullshit that I'm disseminating to just be different. That's not dissimilar to what you see powerlifters in the 1970s do. They spent most of the year getting jacked with lifts other than squat, bench, and deadlift, and then use that new base of muscle and general strength to make another push with the squat, bench, deadlift, which is pretty much how I tend to treat those movements. Now, I don't do them every year. Like, for example, I haven't done the conventional deadlift since like 2022. You know what I mean? But last year when I was doing the bench press, that was off the back of doing a lot of movements besides a flat barbell bench press for a prolonged period of time. Now, when we're talking specific benefits, I guess we can start with talking about the weighted ring push-ups. In the phase that I'm in right now, which is I'm building that base with the movements other than bench press, my main chest lift is actually the ATG weighted dip. But lately I've gotten back into doing weighted push-ups, particularly on rings. And the biggest benefits are, of course, like I mentioned, the much larger range of motion and the freedom to move your shoulder blades back and forth. But it's the strength curve on this movement that it torches my pecs at the top and the bottom of the rep. And I'd say these are among the most complete pec exercises you can do because of this. You get a big botulism, Botox, gorilla freak stretch, and a lot of tension on the pecs to the lockout as well. I'd say these are most similar to the pec deck in that regard, actually. Now, in terms of where I place this, I put this on my last upper body day before I roll over into my next training week. And I do this because I just want to squeeze in some extra pec work without recruiting my shoulders or my triceps too much, because I have a shoulder pressing session after only a single rest day. So I don't want to roll into that workout with muscle groups that are torched, which is ultimately going to interfere with that shoulder pressing workout, because that's a main goal of mine as well, to get my shoulder press bigger and better. If you want to just break it down Barney style, just think of this as a souped up regular deficit push-up on some parallettes or a souped up deep dumbbell press. They torch that deep stretch, but you also get that big tension at the top. So I'd say if you have access to some rings, some weighted ring push-ups with that big squeeze at the top and big stretch at the bottom, are probably one of the best assistance exercises that you can do. This isn't to say that calisthenics are going to just beat out barbell or machine exercises every time. I'm not like a this or that type of guy. I'm a use the tool that makes sense in the right context type of guy. And when it comes to working the teres major and the lats in isolation, I do like behind the neck pull-ups a lot, but I do find that behind the neck pull-downs are a lot more stable. It's a lot easier to lock into the form. So that's why I tend to use them if I want to throw in a behind the neck pulling motion. Tricep work, isolations, I think much the same thing. I think that if you're in a situation where you don't have any option but to isolate with calisthenics, it's a lot better than nothing, and you'll get a great benefit from that. But I do think that if you have access to free weights or machines, they're going to be more in a better return of investment than doing the calisthenic isolations, which is why you see me do a blend of things. You don't just see me do this or that. I do calisthenics, free weights, and machines all in the same workout. And I like this particular variation, which I just pretty much jacked from Dan Green on an old Animal Pack video, because it keeps the elbows in really tight. I moved up in weight, I think, 5 or 10 pounds. So where I was doing sets of 7 or 8, now the rep range is a little bit lower, which is fine. I mean, you can still grow just fine from sets of 4 to 6. So I had no issue with doing that. When it comes to my tricep exercises, I make sure to work my triceps both with a press down and an extension pretty much every workout nowadays. I'd say maybe past month or two. And here's a little tidbit for you when it comes to the press downs. When you get somewhere whereabouts half your body weight or more than half your body weight, like I am here, this is 120 pounds on a 1-to-1 cable pulley, meaning I loaded 120 pounds, so that's what I'm lifting. Some gyms have cable machines that are like 2-to-1 or 4-to-1. This is a 1-to-1. But I've said in the past myself, just grab a weight chain belt, put a weight on it, weigh yourself down, and that way your abs don't have to contract to keep you in a position. Or at least not nearly as much. Like, you're not going to feel like you're doing a weighted crunch on top of doing some press downs. You can just get a long tricep rope, or what you saw me using there, and then loop your straight bar through it and do your press downs that way. It'll feel a lot more locked in and a lot more easy. And then I finish up on this particular day with a new lateral raise variation that I haven't really done in a while, just for variety's sake. I had been doing the cable lateral raises, which are my favorite because they're grindable and I just like them the best. Threw this in for some variety just so I could stay fired up about the cable ones though. And they feel okay. I mean, the cable ones feel a lot better, but this is to keep me fired up to do those. So it's whatever. I just did a straight set, I think with 40 or 45 pounds. And then I dropped down and did a drop set with 30 pounds, which I think is a really fun way to gamify doing lateral raises. But if you're asking me what I do think that weighted calisthenics are superior to just the normal plain Jane flat barbell bench press for hypertrophy. And when it comes to my main chest press and variation that I use when I'm in that weighted calisthenics base building mode, the ATG weighted dip. This might be one of my favorite exercises to do in general. Those are my primary chest exercise that I really started to buy into a lot more when I saw how Samir Banu the Lion of Lebanon, used to talk about it, and he used to say that dips mocked bench press, basically, bro. And how could you say no to a smile like this, dog? Anyway, their biggest benefit to me, again, besides the gigantic range of motion and then the freedom of movement, is that they're a god-tier mobility exercise. They're a weighted mobility exercise that keeps me injury-free in my upper body muscles, because everything from my pecs to my tendons and ligaments in my shoulder, and even a little bit my biceps, they're getting progressively strengthened and challenged through an end range of motion. So when it comes to doing other pressing exercises, say a barbell bench press, it feels like a partial range of motion in comparison, both from like, wow, this is really easy to move, and B, from a perspective of, I feel super fucking strong because my tendons and my ligaments are super strong. That's my sales pitch for calisthenics as a year-round size and strength builder for the pressing muscles, though. Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments and why. Here you see me doing some weighted pull-ups. I'm entering like a strength building phase like I do with my shoulder press and my dips with this. So that's why you see me doing some sub-maximal sets here, because I'm gonna build up to hopefully get a 200-pound weighted pull-up in a little bit. Just because I've never actually sat down and said I'm gonna do a weighted pull-up strength phase. So here we go. It's the first time ever doing it. Gonna see if I can get 200 pounds. And that's just for morbid curiosity. I've never really done that before, so I want to see how well or how poorly it works in comparison to training it for strength when compared to other movements. For me specifically, I know it works really well for others. Like I said, I've just never tested it on myself, so we'll see. These are uncharted waters that I am very excited to explore. This is me crushing 65-pound dumbbell curls, the striations in the chest, shoulders, and biceps, and the veins going crazy. I know that there are probably better bicep exercises on paper, right? But I think there are a lot of benefits to doing alternating curls. They're surprisingly a pretty stable exercise, and you do get a little bit more rest between each rep since you're doing them alternating. So from a strength building perspective, you're able to recuperate a little bit more, so you're able to get more reps than if you were to say just do them, both curls at the same time, which I think has a marginal benefit. You're training the muscle at a higher average intensity, and I think that that's worth something. I'm pretty meat and potatoes with my tricep stuff too. I've been farming these overhead rope extensions for a little while. I would prefer to have the handle that lets you loop your hands through, because I feel it's more stable. Unfortunately, and this is maybe pure cope on my part, I feel like I didn't get my +1 on this session because I used the long rope, but I don't know, man. I think that there's something to being able to get neutral and just lock in with the movement a little bit better. But, 7 reps on this at this weight is still good, so I still got a good training adaptation out of it. Closing off with a little lower body accountability. Was really pumped about this set here. Just for context, I wasn't able to move, I think, 2 or 3 weight notches down lower for 1 rep on this machine when I could squat in the mid 400s for like 4 or 5 reps. And here I am 2 or 3 notches higher, hitting it for, I think this is a set of 8 or 9 or 10. I'll watch back and we'll see how many reps it is here. But it was a lot of reps and way more weight than I wasn't able to budge for 1. So I was fired up about that. And I did these all mostly paused in with a controlled eccentric. So I was over the moon with this exercise, through the roof, test spiked. This is a free motion horizontal leg press for those that are interested, by the way, just in case you want to try it out. I haven't had it in rotation for very long, so I'm even more excited to see, like, am I going to be able to full stack this thing and add weight to it once my neural gains get tapped out? I'm really fired up about it. I also did some belt squats. I did these plats style, so I just elevated the shit out of my heels and put my feet a little bit closer just so that I could get more knee over toe. Strangely enough, my knees and my hips were starting to hurt from the more vertical shin positioning that I had just when I wasn't elevating my heels. I wore Versa lifts, so it was elevated a little bit, but not like this where I'm wearing the Versa lifts and have this heel elevation. And the knee over toe just torches your quads more, so you don't have to use more weight, especially after doing leg press. But it also just weirdly felt more healthy on my knee. Those people that used to tell us back in the day, like, squat with your shins as vertical as possible or your knee's gonna get destroyed. What were y'all talking about, bro? You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. When it comes to belt squats, though, I think that I like doing them because they do tax my my knees a little bit more, but not in a bad way, just because of the way that they're leveraged. They feel different from like a Rogue Rhino, for instance, where the weight is straight up and down. This one it goes up and down, but it also arcs a little bit, which it's just a different feel. But I do think that it strengthens your knees a little bit better, I guess I should say, when compared to like a Rogue Rhino or something like that. But yeah, quad training going super, super well. You can even see here, you can see the thickness of my leg through these baggy ass pants. I shouldn't have to explain that further, bro. These are freaking parachute pants. And again, the legs are looking thick and bulbous. One little piece of advice I could give you to make your leg training more productive and honestly to get more fired up about it, if you're not someone that necessarily just gets fired up from lifting heavy ass weight, you're someone that wants results and for them to meld well and mesh well with a holistic program. And for you not to have to revolve your program around, say, getting a bigger squat, for instance. I think that from a hypertrophy perspective, it's just real simple, bro. It's just the control and then either a pause at the bottom or holding tension at the bottom. One of the two, or you could do both. And then really just picking something that doesn't trash your lower back while you do it as well. And then just getting as strong as possible on that. When it comes to the posterior chain training, that's a tongue twister. I almost slipped up on that in saying that. It's going okay. I had a little lower back tweak that I've been working around, which is why I haven't really been showing the posterior chain stuff too much. Just here and there hamstring curls I'll show you that I'm doing. These back extensions were something that I really loved a few years ago that I'm getting into doing again just because they feel good and they help my lower back feel better. It's funny, bro. I think it was either last week or a couple weeks ago. Lower back was a little tweaked, but I'm like, dude, I used to do 315 on these. So I worked up to 315 and did it for a couple of reps and then just walked out of the gym with a freaking old man back, just walking out with my hand on my back, bro. Just use something more conservative and focus on making the lighter weight feel heavy. So I like to think of back extensions as an opportunity to get more out of a shorter range of motion because there's not much range of motion. So either pause at the top and the bottom, or just control it, one of the two. Or like I said, you can do both, which is what I did on the second set. I followed up with some leg extensions, which, look, man, a lot of folks have been really ragging on Dr. Milo for a while. He's a nice dude. I've met him in person. He's cool. He's legit. And he's jacked in person for the people that say that he isn't jacked. But sorry, bro, the leg extensions are not a D-tier exercise or wherever you put it at, man. I have to respectfully disagree. They torched my quads, and I rate them pretty highly. But I did some full stack leg extensions and then some full stack hamstring curls. And I avoided having to add weight to the stack like I usually have to on this particular machine by just pausing at the top. And I still did the full stack, so you know what I'm saying. But I just didn't feel like grabbing, because I don't have a gym pin, grabbing some weight pin and then doing the ghetto, just taking a 45 and sticking it that way and then hoping it just doesn't fall off. Ended it with some abs, though. I haven't done GHD sit-ups in a little bit just because they didn't feel the best on my back. Something that did feel okay when my back was closer to snapped than it is now was this machine crunch, which was really underrated, and I'm going to keep doing it just because it feels really good. But that's all she wrote, fellas. To answer the question, are weighted calisthenics better than bench press? I'm going to say yeah, bro. I'm not going to have any pretense and say, oh, well, I don't really think that, and listen, you can do what you want. You can get jacked doing a bench press. I love doing bench press. It's a chatty lift. Do I think that for most of the time, the weighted calisthenics are a better exercise developmentally? Yes, but you don't have to agree with me. So what do you think? Do you agree with that? Why or why not? If you want to use the sick cambered bar that you saw me using for the rows in this video, you see me use it for extensions, curls. I eventually will use it for pressing again. Check out the Omni bar. You can find that in the description. I did this in collaboration with Bells of Steel. We worked together for a really long time to put together a product that was worth it for y'all. And there's only 2 left, so make sure you check it out in the description if you want some before the pre-sale is over. And then they won't be available until the actual sale starts. Thanks a lot, fellas. I'm over the moon that this is selling well. So check it out now if you're interested, and y'all have a good day. See you later.